Khanna is also on the Armed Services Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for jumping back on. I know you had to get away to vote, and you heard maybe a portion of the Secretary of State speaking before you had to go away. I wanted to get your reaction, though, to hearing from the Secretary of State a shift in tone, saying very clearly that the United States stands with Israel, but also saying that Israel we collectively need to do more to protect Palestinian civilians, and saying that there is a commitment to talks about a humanitarian pause. What does this look like for you?
Well, let me be very clear. The bombing of innocent civilians, women and children, needs to stop. It needs to stop today. And this is an emerging sentiment among Democrats in the House and the Senate, from Senator Chris Murphy all the way to progressive Democrats. Now, I believe Israel has a right to bring Hamas perpetrators to justice. I believe in their right to self-defense. But when we went after Osama bin Laden, we did not bomb Pakistani civilians. When India was attacked with a terrorist attack in Mumbai, they did not just bomb civilians. So we need to look at how surgically Hamas perpetrators can be brought to justice, but the bombing that is on CNN and on everyone's social media, that needs to end.
Really quickly, though, how? What is the difference between a pause and a ceasefire? How do you make sure that you're going about taking out Hamas terrorists when they, as Tony Blinken just said, they use Palestinian civilians as human shields? How do you do it effectively? How do you pause without allowing Hamas to take advantage of the pause? These are not easy questions, but when we talk in generalities, it may sound good, but how specifically do you think they do it?
Well, I think they do it the way Thomas Friedman has written about extensively, which is through surgical strikes, through special forces, through looking, and this may take time. It took many years for us to go after the terrorists responsible for 9/11. But to have vast bombing in civilian places, and I acknowledge Secretary Blinken's point, which is absolutely correct, that Hamas is using civilians as human shields. But I don't think if you're using hundreds of civilians as a human shield and you have one terrorist, that justifies a bombing which is going to have civilians and children and women, the hundreds, as collateral damage. There are more surgical and precise ways of doing it and bringing these people to justice. And that, to me, is the sentiment that I see emerging among not just young people in this country, but among many Democrats.
Congressman, Secretary Blinken described in vivid detail seeing still more horrific videos of the Hamas terror attack on Israel, talking about a father who was killed before his children, and the children watching the terrorists get food from the refrigerator. And then he noted that it seems, he reflected on the fact that the brutality of this attack has receded for so many around the world, but not in Israel, and he added, not in the United States. And that's an observation that I think is rooted in fact. If you listen to comments you are hearing from around the world, you don't hear these days reflections on the terror attack itself. Why do you think that terror has receded as a force for so many?
Well, it has not receded in my district. I mean, my district has a significant Israeli expat community. We have a lot of technology companies in Israel. I personally have heard gruesome stories of women, children brutally murdered in the October 7th attacks. But that does not mitigate the suffering and the pain that we're seeing today of women and children who are Palestinian who are being killed. And so what has dominated the news are the more recent killings, and we have to find a way to end the cycle of violence. One of the things Secretary Blinken said that I completely agree with is that there has to be a two-state solution with a Palestinian state. For too long, America and the world has thought we can just ignore the Palestinian issue, that we can have the Abraham Accords and go around Palestine, that we can pivot to Asia, and that somehow the situation will disappear. That is not the case. There has to be Israeli security, there has to be Palestinian justice. And until we have that kind of peace process that James Baker started with the Oslo Accords, I don't think we're going to end the cycle of violence.
Let's talk about something specifically that is in your hands. Secretary Blinken said, I think optimistically, we are working with Congress to get more aid to Israel. Republicans, with the help of 12 Democrats, passed a standalone aid package for Israel bill last night. You voted against it. It's not going to go anywhere in the Senate. We know that the White House has already said that the president would veto that. Other than putting blame on Republicans for this, what is going to happen? How do you think you're going to get through this to get aid to Israel?
Kate, I want to answer your question, but one sentence. It's shameful what the Republicans did, holding aid to Israel for the Iron Dome defensive weapons hostage, to saying that if you want to support that, you have to support cuts in IRS tax enforcement. The two have nothing to do with each other, and they put that poison pill in the bill. There are many Democrats, including Democrats like me, who are calling for a stop to the bombing, who do believe that we should continue our aid to Israel, both for defensive technology. They're American citizens in Israel, and so America is engaged in the Middle East. I don't want China and Russia to be the mediators, but we need to have a package with the Senate, the House, and the President that can get broad bipartisan support. I'm confident Leader Jeffries, Senator Schumer, the President will work to achieve that.
But right now, do you know how that happens? To my specific question, do you know how that happens in a divided Congress?
I believe that the Senate will move a bill. My sense is that the Senate bill will be bipartisan. It will probably be overwhelmingly bipartisan. And if it's overwhelmingly bipartisan and then comes to the House, it's going to be very hard for Republicans to vote against a bill that many Republican senators have voted for. That seems to me the most direct way of making it happen.
Congressman Khanna, thank you so much for jumping on, going in to vote, running back out to get on with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.